Hello, and welcome to episode 5 of Things I've Learned from Barry Harris. Today we'll be discussing half-step rules for the dominant scale. He has half-step rules for a major scale also, but we'll discuss those in a different episode. But today we'll focus on, let's say we'll use the example of F7. So the way that Barry looks at it is this. 1 and 3, 5 and 7 are all together. 2, 4, and 6 are together also. And by that I mean whatever rule applies for 1, for 3, for 5, for 7, those are all the same rule or rules. The rules for the 2, for the 4, and the 6 are also the same. So that's that group and then the other group. So the way we'll start it off is, here's our F7 scale. And these are descending. So what we'll do is let's start on the first point. We'll start on the tonic, the F. And the rule for the tonic is 1/2 step between tonic and 7. So that would give you this. Again, one rule. The rule for the tonic is 1/2 step between tonic and 7. Now it's also, the second part of the rule is it's either 1/2 step between tonic and 7 or 3/2 steps between 3 and 2, 2 and 1, and tonic and 7. So in this case we'll put the 3 and 2 and 2 and 1 down below. So we'll do this. So there we go, there's our 3/2 steps. Now the rule for the second is no half steps is the first rule. So now we're starting on the G and coming down the F7 scale. And the second rule for 2 is 2/2 steps between second and tonic and 7. And then the rule for the 3 is the same as the rule for the tonic, which is 1/2 step, blend on third just to be rhythmically right, or 3/2 steps between 3 and 2, 2 and 1, and tonic and 7. So now we'll do 4. 4 is the same as 2. It's either no half steps or 2/2 steps. So let's do the no half steps first. Again. Or it's 2/2 steps between second and tonic and 7. That's 4. Now we'll do 5. 5 is the same rule for 1 and 3, so it's 1/2 step between tonic and 7. Or 3/2 steps between 3 and 2, 2 and 1, and tonic and 7. So now we're up to 6. So 6 is going to be the same rule as for 2 and as for 4, which is no half steps. Or 2/2 steps between second and tonic and 7. And then we're up to 7, which is going to be the same rule as we used, or the same rules as we used for 1, for 3, and for 5, which is the first rule is 1/2 step between tonic and 7. Again. Then we have 3/2 steps between 3 and 2, 2 and 1, and tonic and 7. Again. Okay, so those are our rules for descending. Now, the way that you practice them, or the way that I was taught to practice them, is we'll start on the tonic, and we'll do each of them twice. So if we started on tonic, we would do 1/2 step. Again. 3/2 steps. Again. 2 no half steps. 2 no half steps. 2/2 steps. Again. 3 1/2 step. 1/2 step. 3/2 steps. Again. 4 none. Again, 4 none. 2/2 steps. 2 2 half steps. 5, 1. Again. 5, 3. Again. Oh. 6, none. Again. 6, 2 half steps. Again. 7, 1. Again. Now 7, 3 half steps. Again. Okay, those are his descending half steps. Now there are some little things that you should know about it. If we're starting on any one of those and run up to another note, you follow the rule for the note you started on. So for example, for F7, the rule for tonic, let's use the 1 half step between tonic and 7. So now this rule says if I start on that note and run up to any other note and then start descending, I follow the rule for the note I started on. So if I'm starting on tonic, I ran up to second, and then when I got back down, I did the rule for the 1, which is with the tonic, which is 1 half step. That's running up to second. Let's run up to third and see how that sounds. Same thing, 1 half step. Let's run up to 4. Let's run up to 5. Let's run up to 6. Let's run up to 7. So you see how that works? Now maybe let's start on tonic and run up to the third, and then since we're on the third, we'll put 3 half steps in, because that's the other rule. You can also use 3 half steps. So let's try that. That sounds good too. Now let's run up to the second. No, let's run up to the fourth and do 3 half steps. Again. Now let's run up to 5 and put 3 half steps. Let's run up to 6. Anyway, all these are perfect when you're playing and you need to get out of trouble. These half-step rules, if you really have them in your fingers, they work perfectly. Now, there's a lot of other people that talk about a lot of things like the Bebop Scale or the jazz. Barry doesn't believe in the Bebop Scale. He doesn't know anything about that. He talks about putting half steps in certain places. And so, because he feels like, and rightly so, that just to call something a bebop scale is too limiting. The half steps can be in a lot of places, and you don't want to close off your thinking about improvising to just one particular scale. So he's got a lot of different variations on this. Now, he also puts triplets in. So let's say we're going to deal with the 8th note triplet. We'll do an 8th note triplet first. So let's say if we do an 8th note triplet with the tonic. So we'll do the 8th note triplet between the tonic and the second. Now the rule for the 8th note triplet is that you follow the rule for the middle note of the triplet. So if we start on tonic and then we do a triplet between second and tonic, obviously that 2 is the middle note. So we're going to follow the rule for the 2, which is no half steps. Again. Now let's start on 2. If we start on 2, we're going to do an 8th note triplet between the second and the third, which means the third is the middle note. So we're going to use the rule for the third, which is 1 half step, which would be this. Or, yeah, let's just leave it at that. The one half step. So now if we're playing F7, that's the rule for between the second and the third. Now let's do between the third and the fourth, which means it's going to be no half steps again. Or 2 half steps. And so on. So that that is when you use an eighth note triplet. Now, if you use a 16th note triplet, it's going to be reverse. The rule is going to be you're using the rule for the note you start on. Once again, the same way you use the rule for the note you start on when you run up, it's the same thing for a 16th note triplet. So if we did a 16th note triplet between tonic and second, we would still have to put 1/2 step between tonic and 7. So it would sound like this. Now between second and third, we're going to do the rule for the second, which would be no half steps. Or 2 half steps between second and first and tonic and 7th. And so on. So that would continue. So you see how the rules work even when you add triplets. Now another thing that Barry points out is, he says this a lot, when he sees C minor 7 to F7, he doesn't think to himself 2/5, he thinks 5, because F7 covers everything. And this is how he discusses it. He says on an F7, you have important, what he calls arpeggios, and to him an arpeggio is a triad with the bottom note repeated. So, or here's a triad with the bottom note repeated on top. That's what he calls an arpeggio. So he says you have 3 important arpeggios for a dominant scale. You have them on the root, you have them on the 5th, so the root gives you F major, on the 5th, which gives you C minor, which is the 2, and then it's also on the 7th, which is E flat. So those are the 3 important arpeggios. It would be F major arpeggio, C minor arpeggio, and E flat major arpeggio. Those are the 3 important arpeggios. Now, if, let's say we were playing, let's use some of this stuff. So let's say we're playing a blues in F, and let's choose, let's say, the 3rd and 4th bar of a blues. So the blues says, so there we go. I started on the 3rd, and I came down to the 3rd, and I used 1/2 step. Okay. So now maybe I'll use 3 half steps. Okay, let me start on tonic, and I'll run up to the 3rd, and I'll use 1/2 step. Oh, sorry, I'll start on tonic and run up to the 3rd. Anyway, so you see how that works. I started on tonic. Now maybe I'll do a 16th note triplet between the 2nd and the 3rd, and I'll put in 2 half steps. So let's see what that sounds like. Anyway, so that's a 16th note triplet. Now, maybe I will come down. I'll start on the 3. I'll put in 1/2 step. Now that's major 7 is important, but it's a lot of different things. That major 7 is also the 3rd of the C minor. So let's see what that sounds like. So that's coming down a C minor arpeggio from the 3rd. Now maybe instead of doing the C minor, that 7th is also the root of the E flat major, which is also an important arpeggio from the 7th of. So let's try to do something with that. Well, that wasn't that nice, but let's try another one. Anyway, so that's another way that you can approach it. So the 3 important arpeggios are found on the root, the 5th, and the 7th. And the half step rules are the tonic, 3rd, 5th, and 7th are all the same. It's either 1/2 step between tonic and 7, or 3 half steps between third and second, second and tonic and 7. The rule for 2, 4, and 6 are either no half steps or 2 half steps between second and tonic and 7. Now some people also say, well, how is this going to work if I'm playing an F7 and let's say the person who's chording or who's accompanying me is playing with a sharp 9 or a flat 9 or a raised 5 or something, or whatever it turns out to be, or any kind of dominant chord, but you let that person do that. That's fine. Barry never says to adjust your soloing because of what the person is chording. All these half-step work, they're not going to clash, in spite of the fact that a lot of people says it clashes. It doesn't clash. And he says that people never thought about stuff like that. Like if you write a chord that has a sharp 5 in it, or even a flat 5 or a flat 13, that those are the notes that you have to play when you're soloing. He said that that's way too complicated and nobody ever thought of things that way. At least back in the time when he was growing up and the people he was listening to. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. It's rules for the half steps. And I think my next video, episode 6, I think is going to be strictly focused on guitar players. And I'll try to do major 6th diminished and minor 6th diminished, some of the inversions and some of the things you can do with it. But anyway, like always, please leave a comment down below. Any criticisms are welcome also. And yeah, hope you have fun practicing your half steps. Thanks, till next time.